We were the epitome of the upper middle class. We had great income, we were living in a great area, in a great school district with a great retirement account. But we had a huge secret. We were broke. But not in the way you might think, because the truth is, at the time we were broke, we actually had a lot of money. This is our story. Hi, I'm Wendy Valencia. So I'm going to take you all the way back to the single days of my life, which were different. I first left home, to go to college like everyone. My parents growing up, they always told me to save for retirement. So my first job out of college, I was a forensic toxicologist, and I put away money in my retirement account immediately. I worked there for several years, and then I had a couple of transition jobs, and then I got my current job in federal law enforcement. My first position was out in Los Angeles, and when I moved out there, it was expensive, and I struggled. I was a low-level person making very little money. I think at the time that I started, I was making somewhere between $34,000 and $37,000 a year, which was actually a huge amount more than I was making in my previous job as a forensic toxicologist, which was like $19,000 a year. My parents always told me to save for retirement. And so that was just kind of ingrained in my mind. I think it was because they didn't want me to make the same mistakes they had, because they didn't start saving for retirement right away. And so they were contributing a lot of money as they got older. And of course, knowing the power of compound interest, it is always wise to start saving as early as possible. I knew that I had to save, and no matter how broke I was, I always managed to put some money in my retirement account, and that has always been my saving grace. So, fast forward to meeting Mauricio. I was stationed down in Colombia, and I met him down there. When Mauricio and I started dating, we came from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, very, very different. My family's upper middle class, his is not. So in the US, we operate off the lower class, middle class, upper class. In Colombia, they have a strata system. So it's stratas 1 through 6. And my mother-in-law always liked to refer to herself as strata 0. So Mauricio, when we first got married, had no concept of saving for the future. He had a job that saved for him, and that was amazing. But he didn't really manage his money well. And truthfully, back then, I didn't really manage my money well. I remember years of bragging almost that I didn't budget, I didn't watch my money because there was always plenty, which, was pretty much true, because by the time I was midway through the career I have now, I was making a decent amount of money. I was living overseas. I didn't have a mortgage payment. I didn't have rent. I didn't have any of that. And so I had a good amount of money. Then Mauricio and I got married, and I got married when I was 38, and I had never owned a piece of property in my life. When I got married, Mauricio and I moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I had cash saved up. I had great retirement account. We moved into that house, and I've done videos about this, but that was truly the house from hell. That house, it was like the biggest money pit. And we very quickly went through my cash savings. We had to borrow money from my parents. There was a lawsuit, which we won, but we didn't get very much out of it because the people were going to file for bankruptcy. So it was just a whole big disaster. And at that point, we went through every bit of cash reserves we had. We had no savings by the time that was done. And so we started struggling. Mauricio was working in construction. I had a good job doing what I'm doing today, just in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At that point, we had started helping Mauricio's family. And so we were sending them quite a bit of money, which was awkward because we were borrowing money from my parents to work on the house, and we were sending my in-laws a lot of money. So it was uncomfortable and awkward. And we had all this money in retirement. a ton of money, and we could have borrowed against it, but I knew that wasn't wise. Once we got the house done, both Mauricio and I were fed up, and we decided the best way for us to survive was to go back overseas. And when we were in Baton Rouge, we struggled. We had no extra money to do anything. A huge night out was going out to get drinks and maybe to a movie, and drinks meant one drink. We just never seemed to have enough money down there. And so when we decided to go overseas, once we got there, it was like we were able to relax. And we did. And we didn't try and resave. We traveled, we enjoyed our lives, we, paid off some of the debt that we had. But at the same time, we began taking on more debt. And that was to do various things, generally to help people. I'm not going to get into that now, but we basically took out loans. I'll give you one example. We took out a huge loan to get my sister-in-law reconstructive surgery on her face. So she had her face broken by a doctor in 26 places to reset the bone structure and everything like that. And she wasn't covered by any sort of medical insurance, so we had to pay for that. And sure, we were in Mexico at the time, but we were going to good doctors, and the good doctors were expensive. So, that was a lot of money. But we consequently started getting ourselves in a huge amount of debt. And then we moved to Northern Virginia, where we are now, thinking it was going to be a temporary move, and it wasn't. Mauricio didn't have a job when we moved up here, so he was Ubering and Amazon flexing, and he was working himself to death. And we had these huge loan payments. We were paying, $6,000-$7,000 a month to our loans, and that was just basically the minimum payments when we started out. And then he got a good job and things got a lot easier. But the thing that always struck me, and you'll see that I never talk about how much money we have, and I never will. The thing that always struck me is that by the classical definition of the word, we were rich. We had a lot of money, but it was all tied up in retirement. And we didn't know about emergency funds. We didn't know about short-term savings funds, what some people call sinking funds. We didn't really save for things. We just kind of spent money willy-nilly and tried to stay on a basic budget. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago that we really gained control of our finances. And you'll see that we are on a different journey from a lot of people. We are paying off our debt very, very slowly. We put a decent amount of money to debt, but we also are saving for retirement because that is very, very important. The reason I'm telling this story is that there are people in all classes of life, who are living paycheck to paycheck. I'm sure it is easier for somebody who's making a lot of money to turn that around. Absolutely. But it's the same method that anybody would use. And so if you're one of those people that is higher income but still living paycheck to paycheck, it is a great feeling when you finally gain control of your finances and you are no longer struggling. It is an amazing feeling, and I would never go back. So if you want to see the video where I talk about the house, I'll put it right up here. So I'll see you in the next one.